Good morning out there. Welcome to the rainy day comic book show. Rainy Sunday. Get it right here. Take two. Welcome. I'm Howler Mouse, and welcome to the Rainy Sunday comic book show. We call it Rainy Sunday because when I was a kid and it was raining outside, you would pile up with a stack of comic books on the bed, listen to the rain hit the metal roof of the trailer, and like just this symphony of relaxation, and we would read comic books and stuff, right? Late 70s, right? So today we are here on April 14th, 2024. I'm coming at you at 8:47 Eastern Standard Time. I am going to admit I was not going to do a show this morning. I was going to get off my butt, drive about an hour and a half, do the first hike of the year. And when I got up, it was 39 degrees, and I'm just not about that life. Um, been there, done it, nothing to prove. So maybe we'll do something a little bit more local today and enjoy you fine people that are popping up this morning for the show. And for you people in the future, I'm still glad to see you. So I actually might have an interesting little show today. I'm trying some high-tech stuff. We'll be able to have Comic Cam return for you people who haven't seen him in about a year. We'll see if that's going to work. StreamYard seems to be cooperating. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you at the end of the month, I am having what I consider to be minor surgery. So I may disappear for probably about a week. Or it could be 2 to 3 days, depending on how I feel after that minor surgery and stuff, right? So you may see more of me than you want the first week of May 2024. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And I cannot believe that we are already this far into 2024. It is just flying by as I look at the comic books and stuff that I have around here to show today. I'm going to do a little bit of talking. Also might get a little bit topical thanks to Josh, my buddy Josh, if he's out there. He sent me a video by Sticky Goose. And actually, there was a few things that I've talked about on this channel for a while with that particular video, and also check out a few things. So we may get topical. And I'm going to throw it out there 2-3 times. 2 weeks ago, the day before the, we'll say, passing, so YouTube doesn't get me, of Ed Piscar, I had a live show that I still stand by. And if you guys want me to talk about that and briefly talk about Ed Piscar, you can tell me in the comments and I'll cover it. This isn't the kind of channel you come for a lot of that stuff, but I will talk about things every now and then when I feel like it. It's not the whole of this channel, man. This is a old school, the best school comic book collecting, read your comics channel, as we say, and all things pop culture and things we grew up with. We have a new coffee cup. And it's so funny. I can post pictures of family and trips and stuff on Facebook and stuff. But I put up my fantastic mug that I got at Hobby Lobby when I was getting art supplies and taking the wife. I get a fantastic Peanuts cup, and this thing went crazy on my Facebook page with likes and everything like that. More than most things that I posted in quite a while. So let's see who's here. I'm going to be showing some comics we read through here, and there's going to be some things that I may have shown before because Gmart, my online comic book store, if you've seen me do some of those unboxings, last year they were bought out, so they shut the actual store that is located in Chicago, shut them out. They shut the store down. They got bought up by a bigger comic book company. They changed all their social media that I had to switch over to. And then when they sent me some comics the last time, this is like the second or third time they were damaged. And I have been buying online comics from them since about 2001. So after an email saying, hey, here's the pictures of the books that are damaged, I got oh man, I hate that. We're going to fix it. Hey, good morning, Breen. I'll do some comments here in a minute. And then after another email, because I got even more books sent to me damaged, I got a very nice email saying, hey, I'm a collector myself. I could just imagine opening that book. And then all of a sudden I get a package, a magic package, and they replaced. Not only did they replace it, but the guy that's a head of customer service, I guess, like that, this is the damaged book. You notice bag, no board, just beat up all the crap on the corner there. He personally packed all my replacement books And I could not believe that. I sent him an email, said, hey, what a relief, and opened that book. And here's the older one. They're all beat up. And he sent that, man. It was like 2 or 3 trades, some back issues, alter ego, things like that, all for free. So thumbs up to them. I want to stick with them. And then I've got some other things here that I've gotten along the way. They even replaced EC Comic. Well, I'll show you everything they replaced. They replaced my shock stories, these books here. So I'll probably go ahead and we'll see if Comic Can is going to work here. Say hello to everybody that has shown up and commented here, man. We got a good crowd this morning for a Sunday morning where, like I said, it's 39 degrees here. Badger was here from the get-go. He already yelled a good morning before we even started the show. John C. Good morning, John. When you don't show up for these shows, which is rarely, I actually worry. I'm like, I hope he's okay. Because everybody needs to be like John C., right? Subscribe, thumbs it up, share it, let people know we're here. And definitely hit that bell so you know when I do these things, right? And I want to say it again, since Breen just popped in a few people, at the end of the month, I'm having minor surgery. May not be a show, or there could be a show if I'm feeling pretty good 2 or 3 days after the surgery. So you might get more of me or less of me. Yes, the Breen is here. Good morning. That is a pillar of the current and present community, if I say so. The Sumerian, howdy. What's up? It's kind of funny to see a barbarian saying a howdy, so good to see. So here we go, guys. Moment of truth. Let's see what happens here. Ta-da! Look at that. We actually get to see the comics. I could work on the lighting apparently, but it's progress. I don't do this for a living, guys. So one of the things that I'm actually loving that Dark Horse is putting out, and I say grab every one of these because I'm getting these for 35 to I think 40% off, pre-ordering them. They retail for, what is it, $20? Yeah, $20. So I'm getting them new for like about 13. And like I said, this is one of the books that was replaced by my online comic book store because, man, it was just battered and dented. I got a light that I can bring in here, so we'll play around with this, right? But this is the way to go, man. This to me is the pinnacle of comics. The EC Comic Archives, the Shock Suspense stories, the Wally Wood, Jack Davis art. I could back it up a little bit, I guess. We get a table of contents. We get all the people that worked on this as they known. And it just kind of kills me because there are stories where the writer and artist are unknown, right? So Dark Horse putting out all the EC comic stuff sequentially just blows my mind because this is the fun stuff. This is the stuff from 1952, 53, 54. And, I don't know how it happened. As a kid who was reading like reprints of horror novels, like in Tales of House of Mystery, oh my God, Tales of the Unexpected, whatever Marvel was putting out. I read those in the stepdad and their collection and stuff. So when it comes to like my mind, what comics should look like, somehow it goes back to the EC comic stuff. I was reading heavy metal, the reprints, the Silver and Bronze Age stuff, as a kid, and I have no idea when I actually ran across proper EC comics and stuff, right? So this is the good stuff. And if you read, let me see if this is the one. I've been reading a lot of these. So if I remember, there's a story in here. Yeah, here it is, page 65. Auto binder. I would love to just sit down and with somebody who is very knowledgeable of auto binder and talk about the thousands upon thousands of comics he wrote. He's probably my favorite silver golden age atomic age writer. But this story in particular, page 65, let's go to 65. If you have read Alan Moore, which I'm assuming a lot of people have, and specifically if you've ever read a Spirit story he did that Kitchen Sink Press was putting out in an anthology series, there's a point of view story where the narrator is talking to you. And it's talking about you being on the streets and, oh, look at that. You weren't paying attention and you got your shoe wet. And as you read through this, you meet a creepy little man who turns out he hypnotizes you and he gets the person he's talking to. We're at the point of the view of the person that he's talking to. Everybody is looking at the person, we're at that point of view. And look at this creepy little panel here to describe the man. He goes, for a long while, there wasn't a soul in sight, remember? And then you saw the hunched little figure appearing out of the misty gloom ahead. He dragged toward you, misshapen, bent, gnarled. And that is just a fantastic little panel. So the guy hypnotizes you to go kill this guy that's sleeping with his wife. And I've already ruined it because of the way I'm talking about it. And he also hypnotizes you to go against your morals. So he tells you that the guy's a communist spy since you're not a killer. Hypnotism won't make you go against your morals. So he tells you the person you're killing isn't sleeping with his wife, but he's a communist spy out to take America out. So he gets beat with a chain, and you wake up refreshed because part of the post-hypnotic suggestion was that you would forget everything. And the police show up because you're the killer. They made the reader the killer. It was you that was hypnotized. The finger points at you, the fickle finger of fate. And I see so much influence on Alan Moore now in this stuff, which I knew, but I never saw a story so on the point. So these shock suspense stories, I highly recommend. And they got a catalog of what they're doing. Here we go. As you can see, here's the plan. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be put out. All the titles are there. And I got a few on order. I'm getting them as I can. I personally am a fan of the weird science books because I got a hold of those in the 90s, some of these reprints they were doing. And that seemed to be the one for me. Vault of Horror, Haunting of Fear. And like I said, these are the issues in this trade. And this is also volume 3. So they're going to keep going. Fun stuff, guys. Fun stuff. Oh, nice. Okay, you guys are sticking in. It's awesome. Now, this right here, this is the sweet spot for me, right? And this is me. I would love to sit here. Oh, you can see everything. I got a wide. Yeah, I'm not going to zoom in. Okay. So right here, we have these epic collections. And I've said many times, I don't know what it is. Convenience, the paper quality, what it is. I don't know what it is. And it even surprises me because they're soft cover, right? But these epic collections, they're my favorite form of trades, right? And I've told many times, even on Instagram a few weeks ago, it came up in my Facebook memories. I took a screenshot, put it on Facebook because I always like to be able to validate some of the stories I tell. But in 2010, I was moving out of Roanoke, Virginia, and I was loading my U-Haul by myself, and I was trying to go fast, right? And I got my comic books on there, and for years I thought it was 1, and then I discovered it was 2. But I had 2 long boxes stolen off that U-Haul, so somebody hit the jackpot because what they got was a huge, Incredible Hulk run going back to the Silver Age and all the Peter David stuff, and they got my Jack Kirby Fantastic Fours and some other Silver Age stuff I had stuck in there by Kirby, right? And since then I've built up a little bit, replaced some, found a few things that weren't completely categorized, in the right place. So my being lazy and procrastinating saved me a few books, looking on the bright side of it. But then these epic collections have started coming out, right? And oh man, Fantastic Four by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I'm not going to get into my thing about Stan Lee. We all know about it. We've all heard it and stuff, right? But when it comes to like all the issues that they did, the run, what was it, 104 issues and annuals and specials and stuff, this area right here, this era of their run to me is where they became Fantastic Four proper. Okay, this is when they hit that sweet spot where it's just, this is the classic stuff, despite this being one of the, if not the greatest run in comics ever, right? So this is volume 3 of the epic collections. I now need volume 1, and I'm trying to think, maybe 6. I think they're doing all these in 6 collections to have the entire run of Kirby and Lee in the epic collections, which I absolutely love, right? So this covers 1964 to 66. Fantastic Four issues 33 to 51, and then annual number 3. This ends with the great This Man, This Monster story after we get introduced to the Silver Surfer and Galactus. And that is after we get introduced to the Inhumans. And this is also during where we were getting the Rocky thing proper. I think it's I kind of like the in my eyes, how I read this. If you read the Fantastic Four, for 3 years, the Thing was changing. He was all pudgy and silly puttied up. and he was slowly hardening over the years. And then all of a sudden, they started giving him the lines for the rocks, starting around this era. And then we got our thing that was all proper with the black shadows and everything. He went from cracking rock to, if you ever been like seen a mud hole dried up or a riverbed dried up, that's how you should draw the thing. He's not cracked rock. He's a dried up riverbed with his rocks and stuff, right? I don't know what's showing up here, but this is before Joe Sennett came on, of course, right? But, you know, we had the cartoony style that you would see in the 70s, right? And then by the time it was all over with, I mean, this is just fantastic stuff, man. I'm trying not to look at it because I will days off on you. But here we get, we have our thing proper. And I've talked about Ben Grimm quite a bit. I get that Spider-Man, it has been or was, I don't know what's going on in the current day with these crazy kids. But I've always said that, Spider-Man for a lot of people is probably their most popular character, right? But when it comes to what represents Marvel, to me, it's always been Ben Grimm, the Thing. Okay, the cursed hero. You know what I mean? The fighting and lashing out and the emotionally turmoil, the Thing, the clobbering, it's clobbering time, right? Everything that makes him, there's a good balance with him, right? The thing about Marvel characters used to be is they weren't super powerful, but there came a price with having your powers, or a price that paid when you were irresponsible. You know what I mean? Like there's always a price to pay. It wasn't the I don't know. Life was not perfect, and it kind of showed in these, even though this is still a simpler time and stuff, right? So I think I have 2 more epic collections to get to have the Fantastic Four, but this is it. And if you want me to really kind of hurt you a little bit, if you've never heard the story, but Fantastic Four number 67, the first appearance of him, who would become Adam Warlock, I believe, is that if you look at it, it's a cover with a white background. In the center is that very gross cocoon that him would retreat to, or was born out of, and it had the characters of the Fantastic Four scattered around him. I thought Jack Kirby art used to scare me, and it was so abstract that I thought it was kind of gross, even though by 1980 I would have become a Kirby nut at 7 years old, thanks to Thundar the Barbarian, that I actually colored all the white off of that comic book to try to pretty it up. You know what I mean? So yeah. That was in 1977, 78, guys, right? I was 4 or 5 years old, right? So yeah, one more epic collection. And I get these, I don't buy these retail. I don't pay full price for these. If you watched a few weeks ago, I went to a comic book convention where I got 4 epic collections of Conan the Barbarian comics for $5 a piece. I found this on Amazon for something like 30. It was like some odd number, 37% off or something. So yeah, we got that. Sit that over there gingerly. And then this is the thing, right? This is one of the books that was also replaced, but I'm keeping this out as a reader copy. But Titan Comics is going back, and I've probably showed this before. Titan Comics is going back, and they are collecting all the Michael Moorcock stuff going back to first comics in the 80s, anything and everything. And they're putting them in these fantastic hardbound editions, right? I love this. I love this. Now, this is from back in the 90s when everybody was coming up with new comic book companies were coming out, and then you had like Image Comics and Dark Horse and stuff coming out with new brands, I guess, within their comic book company. You kind of had like the Legend series at Dark Horse, which was nothing but the Easter Island head statue icon that Mike Mignola did. It wasn't like it was a tied universe. But anyway, you had, I think it was Helix, and Helix was a bunch of miniseries that were coming out that were not related, and they were creator owned. And part of this is Michael Moorcock, and Walt Simonson put out a 12 issue maxi series called Michael Moorcock's Multiverse, right? And, Walt Simonson, apparently, according to Jared Osborne and stuff, talking about his cookouts and things like that, Walt Simonson actually knows Michael Moorcock. Now, Michael Moorcock, anything he writes with Elric in it is canon that goes along with the pulps and the books and the collections and the novels and everything. It's all canon, all part of the Eternal Champion stuff, right? So this is the first 6 issues of this stuff, right? Where we go through his version of the multiverse, and it is a little bit of dense reading. This is a spaceship, a Walt Simonson. But what I believe they've done in this is, of course, we get a forward, we get the helix, we get the covers that came out. But what I'm suspecting is they didn't use the original art. There's a little bit of the blurriness that could be a printing issue. But I kind of think they just took the comics and they, I guess, scanned the comic direct a little bit, is how it looks to me. I could be wrong, but like I said, there's a lot of blurriness. We got the colors sort of bleeding into some of the inks and stuff. So I don't know if that was of the time or if that's what they did or not. Other than that, once I kind of turned my mind off to some of that little bit of blurriness that is not all the way throughout this, it's a fantastic collection, dense reading. You're not going to sit down and read all of this all at once. And I don't know if you really need to be knowledgeable of Elric. There's a lot of exposition in here, but Michael Moorcock actually put himself in this, which is hilarious. So this is volume 1, the first 6 issues. I have number 6 on its way whenever they get around to packing my next one, my next shipment. And as you can see, here's a bunch of the stuff that they did. I have a whole shelf behind me here dedicated to Elric stuff. And then upstairs, I have all the collected editions and book club stuff going back to the 70s and everything like that. Oh, wow. What we got here? Little Jimmy Fireball. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Those ECs are nice. They are cool. I got such an appreciation for them now. And after reading comics for so long, it's kind of nice to be able to look at this stuff with fresh eyes and see where EC Comics really influenced so many people. Yeah. Dennis Hayes is here. What's up, guys? Hey, Roy Thomas created Marvel Comics. Hey, what's up? That Geeky Puppet Show. I didn't see your message for that link to an auction or whatever it was until this morning when I was actually setting this show up. So it's nice hearing from you. Go back to bed, Frog. Oh no. There they go. The drama is in the comments. Kirby had the creepiest foobar looking monsters. That and the Kirby Crackle art are awesome. Yeah, I'm a Kirby nut. I have no apologies, and I'm not ashamed of it, right? So these right here, as you can see, this is new X-Men. I don't know if I've shown these, but you'll see the $3 on here. So I got these trades for $3 a piece at an auction, not an auction, at an antique shop, right? And I have this entire run by Grant Morrison. And I swear I need to just sit down at some point, and sometimes I get these ideas for videos and then I'm like, I really don't care. I'm at that age now. I used to be, I loved to make these videos and school things and go deep into depth about them and stuff. But one of the things I like about Grant Morrison when he gets on more mainstream stuff is that he does his homework. Okay, when he was doing Batman, I think he went back and read everything of Batman from the 50s on up. I mean, I don't know if he scanned the stuff, took notes, I don't think, in depth. And that's where we'll be talking about Batman in a minute here and stuff, right? Because it's on my mind. But he did the same thing with X-Men. And what was fantastic about this run is that he set up what the X-Men were about. Since X-Men 97 cartoon came out, I saw the stupidest, and I hate using that word, I don't know if that's actually a word. It's usually more stupid. But I've seen the stupidest people who have opened their mouth in order to impress their friends, after they're part of a group or whatever they're doing. I guess maybe this is their version of trying to be cool, that are saying that the X-Men are the wokest book ever and stuff, right? That is not what the X-Men is about. So right off of Grant Morrison's run here reminds you that it's about evolution, the evolution of Homo superior, evolving and more or less breeding out the Homo sapiens, us, and even trying to enslave them and stuff, right? And then and they're trying to say that Charles Xavier is, and what's bad is I think I've kind of done this before too, say, in a romantic way back in the day or something, right? But then they're also trying to say that Professor X was Martin Luther King Jr. And then they were trying to say that, and this is what bothered me, they were trying to say that Magneto was Malcolm X. Magneto was a psychopathic killer. I'm like, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Tell me you never, what's the, tell, that's so original now. Tell me you never read X-Men books without telling me you never read X-Men books. Tell me you never read comics without never reading comics. And then we had Chris Claremont coming in, and he started referencing back to World War II, and started making that sort of the subtext with what was going on with characters like Kitty Pryde and being Jewish and revealing Magneto being Jewish, right? Which that's what we were doing. And then we had things like experimentation like they did in World War II to the Jews. Unfortunately, the Jewish folk there, the Jewish people. The thing about Wolverine is Barry Windsor Smith got it when he did his Weapon X story, right? Experimentation on mutants. And Bryan Singer finally got that because that was actually mentioned in one of his X-Men movies, right? So, yeah, Grant Morrison did his homework. And Grant Morrison kind of leans that way with those guys, or supposedly if he does, or maybe he's trying to stay relevant. But back then we have a full page when you start reading his X-Men run where it's a bunch of cavemen diving down on a bunch of mutant cavemen or something like that. There's 2 plates. No, the Neanderthals coming down on Homo sapiens. You had the evolution of man where they were taking out the Neanderthals because we were evolving. I just totally messed that up. But anyway, they even admit that there's probably never a scene like that, but that was symbolic of this is what the X-Men are about, surviving. My problem with the X-Men, if I really wanted to blow it up, and maybe it was like the genie was let out of the bottle and then it was too late. People were suspicious. I don't know. But no matter what happened, I didn't really come around to the X-Men until about 1985. My first X-Men I ever read was number 3 in the Stepdad's collection, the first appearance of the Blob. I read a bunch of that stuff. Dabbled into at the time, dabbled into the Dark Phoenix saga. Hey, who wasn't? I've told those stories before, but it was the Asgardian war that came in, right? I picked up an odd issue here and there of X-Men. I still have it, Cyclops fighting an octopus or squid or something out in the ocean with Madeline Pryor on their honeymoon. But anyway, but the biggest plot hole I've ever seen in the X-Men is not only were they their own corner of the Marvel Universe, if you will, but in a world where people could say, hey, man, I got bit by a radioactive spider. Hey, I got hit with cosmic rays. Hey, I was hit with a gamma radiation, a gamma bomb, and all the gamma radiation got me. Why admit that you're a mutant? I'm like, whose business is it? You know what I mean? Like, why admit you're a mutant? Maybe it's a sense of pride. Like, I'm not ashamed of who and what I am. I don't know, But we'll move on from that, right? But anyway, $3 a piece for these fantastic Grant Morrison trades. I'm getting to the point where there's definitely going to be a purge here in the future because there's only certain things I'm going back and reading. And as I've been saying for years, whenever I take a chance on some new stuff, I'm highly disinterested. Or if I do think it's an all right read, I'm not recalling what happened in the issue 3 or 4 days later, and that's not age. I know the difference between the forgetting due to age and the book was all right? So anyway, I've got New Worlds here. Van Sciver, Jimenez, Morrison. This has the SEX issue where Sciver hid that word on every panel of the book. Imperial, Frank Quitely and Grant Morrison, one of the greatest teams ever. Going in there, and then we have Right at Xavier's, and this is what I was talking about, right? It's been a while. It's probably been 20 years since I actually read this, right? But in the Silver Age books, where Grant Morrison does his homework, actually reading the comics and stuff like that, there's a newspaper ad that was in one of the comics. It was a newspaper article in one of the Silver Age X-Men articles, I remember, and it was the fear of the mutants rising and this artist's interpretation of what the future would be, and they had a mutant that looked a lot like this with a whip, and he was whipping at humans and stuff, right? So this group of mutants took that ad, that article, that newspaper article, and they turned themselves into that. And I thought that was like so cool. This is why I read Grant Morrison. He'll find some little odd panel and he's like, all right, let's make it real. Let's do it. All right. What we had here? Paolo has popped in here. Good morning, Paolo. Another howdy. Is that what it's going to be? Is that going to be how we howdy? Is that how we're all going to greet each other? I kind of like that. All right. Michael is in here. Good morning. Great to see you. Magneto has his mind rewired by Moria when he was de-aged by Alpha. That's why he stopped being a psycho. Nice. Nice. Wouldn't that be great to just cure all, things of that nature like that? All right, guys, I don't know what I paid for this, but I'm thinking it was around $10. I can't remember. I got offered a price and I said, hey, here's what I have in cash. And of course, when you pay in cash, they don't have to report the taxes. It's the unspoken rule. Um, so I saw this on the wall, and I talked much about the Stepdad's collection stuff that I was reading, and this is that era, man. We're talking like issue 75 or something. Mean Mountain Marco. That's the first issue of Spider-Man I remember reading. I have it in a Marvel's Tales, and I also have the actual comic without the cover. But these are beat up in 8, and this is issue 150, 115. We probably had at least up into the 140s in the house that I can remember, I think. I know we had the first appearance of the Punisher in the Stepdad's collection here, right? And I still have this book, but it is just beat up and ripped up and everything. So when I saw this, it's mid-grade, a little bit of yellowed, but other than that, it's a great thing. But this is what I love about these Silver Age this is still the Silver Age, right? This is the Silver Age, still the Silver Age of Spider-Man with issue 115. One of my favorite stories of this era was a Gil Kane story with Kazar and Spider-Man, and it's in a Marvel Treasure edition where I read it. I wonder if I still have it. And I think it was from Marvel Tales, but I digress. The Wizard was in it. Stegron was in it, I think. Anyway, maybe it was more Stegron. But anyway, sorry, I'm losing focus. But anyway, I love this story because going by memory, okay, and this is some of the first Spider-Man stuff I read. You have to understand that, and the Ditko little pocket books with Green Goblin and Spider-Man in the cave, hiding in a stagnant pool of water in a cave to hide from the Hulk. Anyway, but the plot of this one is just so fantastic, right? Aunt May has inherited like some kind of energy plant or nuclear plant or something, and we have Dr. Octavius, Dr. Otto Octavius, popping up and coming after this poor widowed woman who has this big inheritance now, and he's trying to court her, and they actually almost end up getting married. I think this is Jerry Conway doing this. But the great John Romita senior cover here. But Aunt May assassin, so I mean, I love that stuff. Bronze Age, that's what I'm trying to say. Bronze Age stuff. So that's my favorite era of comics. Oh, singing. What did I say? Singing Kazar. I'm going to go back and see what I did. Yeah, it's early in the morning. I'm on coffee. This is why I do this, so I can entertain you people. Kazar's song is now property of Walt Disney Corporation, Breen. Oh, no. Oh, no. Now, again, I might have shown this one, but we have the ThunderCats here, and it's so odd. It is so odd about my history with the ThunderCats because it's sort of like in the 80s growing up. First and foremost, man, I was a Star Wars kid, right? Before that, before I properly became a Star Wars kid, I was Planet of the Apes and Flash Gordon, right? And then you couldn't swing. And then I was into Black Star, you know what I mean? And then Masters of the Universe came along, and then Thundar was around there and stuff, right? Everybody had a sword, magic sword, cool sword, or something like that. So by the time the ThunderCats came out, I bought, and I still have it, I think. I bought the #1 issue of ThunderCats that came out, right? Which is hot, when they came out. The cartoon was syndicated. It was syndicated to where I could see the first episode, and then you could rent it. Okay, you could actually rent that first episode because it's a mini movie that is the origin of the ThunderCats. If you've seen the ThunderCats TV show, you can you can swing a sit. It's somewhere. I think it's on Hulu. Anyway, it's on a streaming service. I also have the DVD set of the first half of the first season. But I saw that first episode, which was like a mini movie, and then the comic book was just a retelling of that episode. And I'm like, this is good. And so helped me when I saw the proper second and third episodes. I was like, they really dumbed it down in my 12-year-old mind. So I was gone. I was done. I still have one of the toys that I found at a yard sale at some point and stuff. The little lizard man, Slithering. I mean, my brother told me his name, but my brother was really into this. It blows my mind how my brother was 4 years younger than me, but he was always on the pulse of the future, right? He discovered Voltron before it was a thing, and his grandparents having money. He lived with his grandparents who had money. I was poor as dirt, living back home with the parents. And he would pop up with Sectars and Voltron toys and anything that was coming out at the time. Visionaries, everything, right? And he was right, but the ThunderCats was seemed to be the one that grabbed him for a while and stuff, right? So years go by, and it just blows my mind how these properties keep surviving and stuff, right? So now we have Dynamite putting out another #1 with a Jay Lee cover, and Jay Lee's just the stuff, right? So I was a fan of ThunderCats, getting in there, kind of keeping up with it, until I thought the cartoon dumbed itself down. I thought maybe I need to go rewatch them, but that's my memory of it, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah, ThunderCats are out there again. And look at this. It's a new comic. Can you believe that? I got this the other day on an impulse buy, right? Because I do have the Geiger stuff, right? I am a Jeff Johns guy per se, right? Even though I don't know what the hell he's been doing for the last 10 years, it's kind of like I don't know, through his writing, you would imagine that he's just obsessed with Alan Moore and started trying to write a little bit more like Alan Moore with his Three Jokers, his Doomsday Clock, his references to other things that he was doing. And with Geiger, when he came back, you can definitely tell he slowed down and changed his style after 20 years of storytelling and writing. But Geiger was like 80s post-apocalyptic stuff. I felt like that book could have came out in 1982, which is why I kept the trade in the giant-sized 80-page giant special. He calls back to go-go checks and stuff. And apparently now he's slowly building this universe. And more people, if you're into newer comics, yes, you do know more than I do about this, and I'm fine with that. I'm good. I don't know if I'm butchering this, right? But we have Jeff Johns with a little bit of Brian Hitch art doing Redcoat. So apparently what I can tell is this is sort of an immortal character that I've seen this many times before. Highlander. There's a TV show that you can get on the CW app right now. I'm talking a lot about television today. How funny. But there's only one season of it, and it's not fair because it was a fantastic show, and it's called Forever. If you watch that show, it's fantastic. This guy, every time he gets killed or dies, he pops up naked out of the New York River, and he's been doing it for a couple centuries. And he's right now he's a policeman forensic agent, and it's a kind of a cop show with some fantasy there, But anyway, so apparently I flipped through it and I saw a panel where he was killed, and he wakes up in his underground. He's been buried. And he's sitting there talking about how, this has happened a couple of times, and I would die again before I figured out how to dig out of here. So apparently, every time he dies, he just comes back to life, and some kid, unburies him, and this goes through time. What I found interesting as I was flipping through this is apparently there is a timeline for this little mini universe of books that are about to come out and things like that. All right, let's go ahead and show that since I'm talking about it. Oh yeah, it's a wraparound cover. Excuse me. There you go, if you're into this kind of stuff, right? And this is through Image, and apparently it's Ghost Machine. Yeah. So apparently we have First Ghost, Geiger, Unknown War, Junkyard Joe. We have actual dates here. I don't know if it's showing up. 1776, 1864, 1944, the monster is made. 1776, the Redcoat becomes immortal. We have Widow X, First Ghost, Unknown War, 5 years from now, Geiger 25 years from now. So apparently, whatever Jeff Johns is up to, there's a plan. But, the last time he had a plan, like through DC Rebirth, we got burned. So I don't know. I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't know if I'm all in. What do we got here? Oh, I love the Kazar stuff, man. That's pretty good. And Palo's right on it. Most of the action cartoons of the 80s had a 3 to 5 part storyline, so they could be repackaged as a VHS tape. It's a full season. If a full season wasn't commissioned, right on, man. Yeah. I mean, it was a great time to grow up and have that stuff because it was like the Wild West. And now we look back on it, we see the formulas, but back then it was just it was just a melancholy, mundane world that got magic injected into it every now and then, you know, when you were a kid, all kinds of stuff to collect and pop up. Now, this to me right here is a mystery that is always going to be right. But I had the Grant Morrison run of Batman. He brought back Damian. He brought back all the international Batman and made a story of it that made it work. There was, you know, Batman Incorporated, and actually it was Batman Incorporated that I was kind of out, and I started selling off my Grant Morrison Batman, but I kept all the key issues and all the books I liked, and I absolutely loved this issue. Right, so this is the future. This is Batman 666, and Damian Wayne becomes the Batman. And what I loved about it is that he acknowledged how Bruce was better and Dick was probably Dick Grayson was better as a Batman and stuff like that. He knows his spot. You know what I mean? Like he's grown up, you know, killing people. If you've read Damian Wayne, you know he already has an ego, you know. And he's a little bit more humbled in this, but he cheats and prepares. He's still a bad guy, right? And that's what I kind of liked about this one, right? Now, what was wild is this is 2007. Now, I need to go back and look, but J. Michael Straczynski did a story where in his run of Spider-Man, I think it was actually Spider-Man 500. That doesn't sound right. 700? I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at it. I wasn't prepared for my mind to wander like this. But he did a future story where Peter Parker was like a 50 to 60-year-old Spider-Man floating around with a new costume. He was starting to get the shape of Uncle Ben, putting on a little weight and all that stuff like that. And it seems like there was a thing going on where everybody was trying to do their Dark Knight Returns story, right? You had Spider-Man Reign, which I still have, a 4-issue series where they were flat out trying to do Dark Knight Returns. But my whole point of saying this is that with future stories, you know, stories about legends and myths, the magic about them is they have an ending. You know, they have their Ragnarok. You know what I'm saying? And this felt like this was nice to have a future where we didn't have a Dark Knight Returns situation, right? We're moving forward. You know, this is 2017, so this could be present day. You know, with if he had aged in real time. You know. And I will pick this book up anytime I see it, right? This is the Witchblade #1, Battle for Independence, excuse me. And this is actually part 2, okay? And depending on which way you go back and forth, this is, if you're into Witchblade or we're into Witchblade, it's supposed to be the first appearance of Witchblade. But what I liked about it is in the 90s, thanks to Image, part of the marketing, whether it was true or not, much like wrestling, I look back on some comic book history now, and I don't know what was marketing and what was true, or who really felt that way, or who jumped on board to get there and stuff, right? But there was like a revolution going on. Creators' rights. Spawn #10, where Dave Sim wrote that story, and they went down. They found the dungeon where you had all these superheroes' arms sticking out of a cage, and you could count who it was because they were given up by their creators. And then you had all these creators who had bags over their head and they were tied up and everything like that. So it was all about like keep your creation and support the indies and all this stuff like that. I liked it better when they were called alternative comics in the 80s and stuff, right? And this is one of the reasons like people kind of say there was a glut of stuff in the 90s and stuff like that. I was cool with it. I mean, I admit there was a lot going on. But people were really excited and stuff, right? So there's the storyline going on, and these are all the main characters they reveal are in here first. We got She by Tucci, and then we had Cerebus by Dave Sim, Bone by Jeff Smith, Mr. Spook from Bean World. I was excited to see him popping back up. The Atomic Angels, some Joe Quesada stuff that he was doing, indies with his Ash, and then here's Gabriel, and we had Witchblade. And basically, it's a symbolic, the whole story is subtext and symbolic of going against the big corporation of Marvel and the wall that blocks them in that they can't get over to be successful with their little comics. And of course, they said they needed a warrior who's already been out here and stuff, who already knows who's been doing this fight. And up pops Cerebus because he's been doing this since 1977. He is the one that has survived in the indie market without the big two. Despite the fact that I found Cerebus in Epic Illustrated back in the early 80s, just saying. Anyway, and there's the big tower. And then all of a sudden, as they go through this swamp, that is the Indies out here, and the monsters and stuff like that, and the corporations and everything that's holding them down, all these independent characters start showing up. And it actually has a good pacing because it starts gaining momentum. And just when they think they're not going to be able to take down the big industrial monster, the big corporate comics, if you will, and stuff, all it takes is some little independent book to mess them up, and Bone ends up tripping the machine to where he falls face first in the swamp, and we get our first victory of the Indies, is what they're saying. So a little on the nose, and it might be their perception of it, but as we go on, we get more and more characters popping up. Megaton Man, Kachu from Strangers in Paradise, and then they just go all out with all, Steve Bissett and Lethargic Lad, and everybody's there. So if you were there in the 90s, this is your thing. A little Astro City, things like that. Yeah. We all know who that is, don't we? That is one of the greatest creations in comics ever, So anyway, it's kind of a fun issue, and I'm not going to ruin too much for you and stuff, right? But if you want a little time capsule of the mindset of comics back then, now that time has gone by, it's kind of like a lot of people talked a lot of shit and then couldn't back it up. That's what it felt like. You also got to understand they were sort of kicking a man when they were down, because I think this is the time that Marvel was also going for bankruptcy and stuff, right? Now, here's a little gem that I found that I didn't even know ever came out. And I was so happy to find it. And it was in a dollar bin, right? And it's Art Adams art, right? So do not think that because it is Gen 13 and Generation X that I was like, ooh, got to get this. It's because this is for $1, I get a whole comic full of a ton of characters who are basically the New Mutants. Okay. To me, in my mind, he's returning to those mutants of the 80s were 85 again stuff. But there's a Gen 13 Generation X crossover. This is a one shot. I don't know if I ever heard of this or not, but of course, like I said, February 1997 is the date of this art. So man, I remember what I was doing in 96 barely. Okay. Yeah, that was a wild year for me. 96 going into 97, there's a glut of comics, but a lot of stuff going out. I was living life. Yeah. Ooh. Anyway, I'm having memories. I can't tell them. You'll judge me. But anyway, I went through this, and if you like Art Adams, this is great Art Adams art, and it just blows my mind that we ended up getting this crossover because, if I remember right, okay, Marvel was doing some pretty shady stuff back in the early 90s, right? When Defiant Comics was getting started up, they had Warriors of Plasm, and they came up with a character called Plasmer, and they actually took Defiant Comics to court, saying they did a copyright issue, and even though Defiant Comics won, they were out of money fighting this legal battle. So all of a sudden, there's advertisement for Gen X, and they come out with Generation X, and the Image, whoever these guys are, Wildstorm, a letter, and they change it to Gen 13. So to see this as a crossover, this kind of shows you. This is also around the time that we had Heroes Reborn, where they went ahead and Marvel gave two of their titles to Wildstorm and two of them to whichever company it was that Rob Liefeld was doing. So no wonder there was probably crossovers and stuff like that. All those issue 13s of Avengers 13, Fantastic Four, Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man, and I think there was a one-shot Fantastic Four. All the 13th issues did an amalgamation of Wildstorm and the Marvel Universe. So there's a lot of history there that I hate is getting forgotten. I remember Gen 13 Gen X crossover advertised in Wizard. Then I knew about it. If it's in Wizard, I could turn the camera now, show you my long box of Wizard and the bottom shelf full of Wizard magazines. I've kept every one I've had. So it was all a good time for all. Okay, Video Jack, Epic. This is from Epic, all right? Epic Comics, which was a brand of more adult themed creator owned comics from Marvel, Different Little World. Archie Goodwin sort of edited all these books, and Keith Giffen dabbled in here. This is from '87, right? Now I saw advertisements for this, and in about the last 4 years, I've really out of Moonshadow, Swashbucklers, Swords of Swashbucklers, a few other things. If I sat here and really thought about it, I would see the advertisements for things like Black Dragon and stuff in the newsstand comics, but Epic Comics were not on the newsstand, right? So I would see the advertisements for them and kind of wonder about them and go on. And about 4 years ago, I think it was during the pandemic or a little bit before, I really started becoming infatuated with these because there was some great stuff coming out, right? And of course, Giffen at the time was just hitting on all cylinders. He'd really gotten a blow for being involved in what's the word I'm looking for? A plagiarism suit over a French artist and his artwork and possibly swiping, allegedly. So all of a sudden, at the same time, his Justice League is taking off. And he's getting a little bit of work at Marvel. And I remember him popping up in the New Universe. I've shown some of the books and stuff not 3 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden, he also had this Video Jack. I think it's the 6-issue miniseries coming out, right? So I don't really have a lot to say about this, but you can already tell this is very 80s, okay? Very Max Headroom looking to me a little bit. I think it's about people's fascination with television. So I'm kind of thinking this is still going to be a story that we can still relate to if we just switch it to social media instead of this. I think this was also the year that the Running Man movie came out or something. So there's a theme about warning about the future and everything like that. Jlis Comics is here. Good morning, man. You picked a good morning. All right, and what we got here is a freebie, man. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is out. Now, I've said many times over the years that I was a Planet of the Apes nut as a kid. I absolutely loved it. Little did I know it probably had more to do with Twilight Zone, that movie having a Twilight Zone ending, and watching this stuff on black and white and everything like that. So I was down for it. As the movies progress, I usually don't get past the third movie, Return, let me get a coffee, guys. I've been talking for 51 minutes, I've seen. So anyway, I loved Planet of the Apes. First movie I ever saw on Laserdisc was Planet of the Apes. Had the Mego toys that I got rid of. I would collect. I had a little miniatures, figures collection throughout the 90s and 2000s. Got rid of about 2005. And then the Tim Burton movie, I went to the midnight showing of the Tim Burton movie, and I knew it was crap. So what I would end up doing with that movie is I would play music over it because aesthetically, I think it's beautiful. And I had a bad feeling when they cast Marky Mark. Any movie with Marky Mark, I'm like, I'm out, just out. So we have the new Planet of the Apes movies come out. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, War of the Planet of the Apes. I think these movies started coming out, 2017, 16? I have them all. And I have people who keep giving me as gifts their DVD sets of that particular trilogy, which blows my mind. And I think those movies are fantastic. They're great. So next month, as of this live show, we have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out May 10th. And apparently, if you go to your comic book shops this week, this is all freebie stuff they're giving out. And who's this through? I want to say Boom. Yeah. Well, it says Marvel. Good grief. Okay. So they're taking the stuff that happened at, what was this, Dynamite or Boom? I have them behind me. Oh, I moved them because of my Akira. Anyway, there were some great comics coming out a few years ago, and I swear I want to say it was Dynamite or Boom Studios. I can't remember which one. But anyway, we get a retelling. I don't know if this is a reprint or not. A retelling of where we're at. Where we're at. How this came to be to the new movie coming up. I guess this is what this is, right? But anyway, a whole comic for free, so I'm not going to complain. And then, of course, you got your whatever all this new stuff is. This is calendar. Yeah, I got our calendar. DC Connect coming out. Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age. So we're harking back to the first Elseworld story with no Mike Mignola. And I picked these up for $1. I just need 2 or 3 more, and then I'll have everything that had to do with the Giffen DeMantis Justice League. But the Justice League quarterly books, they were great. They dipped down, and then all of a sudden, after I like quit to buying them, and I didn't seem to understand that much, a Mark Waid pre-Flash, pre-Superstar Mark Waid was writing stories in these Justice League quarterly 80-page giant books. So I just need 2 more of those, I think, to complete them. Not a lot to say about this. Of course, 5 years I stuck with the Justice League with this DeMantis Giffen era, McGuire, everybody that came on there, Adam Hughes, there, everybody that was on there, loved it. Justice League Europe, got all of those that had to do with this era. And it still burns my ass that I had to sit through all those years of Booster Gold, watching him just bring Blue Beetle down. Okay, and I think I showed this stuff, right? But the Jeff Johns era of Teen Titans, after this era, I really feel there hasn't been much or anything worth getting. I think this was volume 3. This came out about 23 years ago, I think. And this is one of the, I remember getting the first issue. I followed this series with my Gmart order. I was ordering this one online. And the first thing they had sent me, which I have sold since then, I sold this whole set and ended up recollecting it and stuff, right, was the sketch variant to this, right? But this was a great era. Jeff Johns, Mike McCone. If you do not follow Mike McCone on Instagram, get your ass over there after the show and go ahead and like his stuff, because he is putting up fantastic art, and then he puts the art up for sale. And you can go to his site, and if you got the money, he's got some beautiful stuff, man. So yeah, this was a great era of Teen Titans, in my opinion, in the last great era. And then we had, and that is a Mike Turner cover for you Mike Turner fans. Yeah, that is a Mike Turner cover. You're correct, JLS Comics. And this I will buy over and over. And I think it was Charlton 66 years ago sent me one of these signed by John Cassidy, right? But this is one of the most fun, and that's the best way to put it, the most fun one-shots ever put out. It's Planetary Batman, Night on Earth by Warren Ellis and John Cassidy. Now, there was almost a trope, I feel like, going back to the 80s. There's a Batman special, could be a Batman annual, I have it. But that one story, I saw a Batman animated series version of it, I think was season 4. And I'm trying to think, there's somewhere else I saw this kind of story. And it's also in this one. Oh, 0 Hour. There's a Man of Steel story I buy over and over out of the dollar bins. Anyway, we see the different interpretations of Batman over the years, right? How Bob Kane drew him, how Dick Springs drew him, how Frank Miller drew him, how Neil Adams drew him, and then how artists, they all drew him. And they all say it's from different time zone, different timelines and things like that. Well, Not on Earth, the same thing is kind of going. Basically, Planetary shows up to investigate something, and Jakata ends up fighting Batman, and Batman keeps changing forms, like from different timelines and stuff, to where we get this fantastic, as I know it, unseen Alex Ross version that we've never seen before. What is fantastic about this that really cracked me up, that made this a classic for me, is that she's kind of turned on by the big leather Batman that she's fighting, the Alex Ross version, and then all of a sudden he shifts into the Adam West Batman. She's like, "You're not so sexy anymore." So I thought that was fantastic. But I probably have like 6 of these, the hardcover, and I didn't even know it was one of my favorite comics until I started talking here, right? So this bad boy's never been opened. This is a mint unopened one. Nice. But John Cassidy's artwork is fantastic. It's just the Warren Ellis telling a solid little comic book story. They start fighting. I guess this is the Alex Ross version with the great big huge Batwing sickles coming at her. And like I said, they're fighting. The action is great. And then he turns into Adam West. And he goes, "Bad apologies," after she says he's not that sexy, and hits her with the Bat Shark spray. So yeah, fun stuff, good stuff, groovy stuff, since we're going to the 60s. And you talk about an impulse buy, right? And I was surprised it was $2. I got it out of a dollar bin, but it had a $2 price tag on it. And I'm like, why am I getting this? Why am I getting this? Right? Years ago, I either did a video proper or I've just mentioned it somewhere, something like that. But if you, what is it? Amazing Spider-Man 194, is that the first appearance of the Black Cat? Well, I was so happy that things like Wizard and Comic Sceners and I was able to start seeing the comics news magazines, of yesteryear, because apparently I wasn't the only one that thought this. When I really early 90s really started getting into the comics and everything was starting to gel in my head more than it had already, I figured out that I seem to like Spider-Man stories from certain eras, and every now and then there would be a little something that was kind of cool and then they would shit on him. And I'm like, they're just doing this. I'm like, how many times can Peter Parker be shit on even in real life, even to make these comics? That's the Peter Parker formula, man. How many times is he going to have to save Aunt May by just this much? How many times is he going to have money problems with the brain he has? How many times is he not going to figure out how to balance being Spider-Man and Peter Parker? I mean, this shit went on for like 30 years. So by the time we got to the 90s, I was checking out, man. I was like, oh my God, they're just shitting on him. And then I started figuring out when it happened, right? Thanks to reading the stepdad's books, me picking up my own books, I got a shit ton of Spider-Man books around 85 when I was in the hospital getting my appendix out. Speaking of which, for all you people that's in there, I'm having surgery, minor surgery at the end of the month, just to throw that out. Sorry for you people that's been here the whole time. But at the end of the month, I'm having minor surgery, so I could be gone for a week or so with the recovery, or if the recovery isn't that bad, you could have more videos for me being stuck at home. Who knows? So make sure you like, subscribe, and sub, and hit that bell. There's no telling what's going to happen when I'm homebound. Anyway, moving on. But I figured out that Spider-Man started really going downhill with Amazing Spider-Man 194, and that I know that wasn't actually a place where Spider-Man per se got shit on. But if I remember, if I'm even doing the issue right, but it's the first appearance of Black Cat. That's a better way to say it, right? I hate saying it's her appearance, but as you followed the story, somewhere along the line, the Black Cat was really into this relationship, and Peter Parker decided to take the mask off and say, hey, I'm Peter Parker. Let's share identities. She freaked out and wanted the spider. She liked there's no other way around it. She liked the kink. She liked the mask and the not knowing and the danger and all that stuff that came with it. And that was actually, to me, when Peter Parker and Spider-Man, that's where they messed up, right? Because they weren't two separate individuals. The magic of Spider-Man is that once that mask was on, Peter was cutting loose. Peter and Spider-Man were the same person. He just had a release and everything like that. And you got to be careful because, like, there's a lot of people that read into these comics now that were like, nothing like a 16-year-old leaving goo all over the New York City. I was just like, ooh. But anyway, I think that's really where people kind of lost the mark of what Peter actually was, right? And that's why I'm always like, you just need the first, 150 issues of Spider-Man. That's the pure stuff. Then I'm a little bit more like, maybe the first 200. Then I'm like the first 300. I don't know. Now I'm around the first. Honestly, I'm around the first 325 issues of Spider-Man. To me, feels like that's all you really need and stuff. So anyway, Web of Spider-Man came out because they went back to the Clone Wars. Oh, I'm mixing up my Spider-Man and my Star Wars, guys. Y'all are getting it all today. But anyway, they really came real close to collapsing everything Spider-Man, because what they were trying to say with this character, they had the return of Ben Reilly, the cloned Peter Parker Spider-Man from 149, 150. I've got the issues, the Jackal story that Gary Conway did back in the 70s. Gary, whatever. And they were really getting very close to hinting. I mean, you talk about this, the 90s was such a low point for Spider-Man. I'm surprised that he even came out the other end, because Marvel flat out did say, as long as we put Spider-Man on it, anybody will buy it. But they were really getting very close to saying that for, what was it? When did that come out? 75? Help me out, somebody. But anyway, they were getting ready to say that close to, we'll say 20 years, just to get the idea that 20 years of your Spider-Man books, those weren't Peter Parker. This was the real Peter Parker. So they were getting ready to say that 20 years of comics that you followed Peter Parker and was following him around and stuff was really a clone. And I was like, they are not. And like I said, I really steered away from this stuff. So this was an impulse buy, right? Just to kind of check it out, have a little nostalgia, look at what I was missing. Because I think the only Spider-Man book that I can really think I was buying was a Kurt Busiek book, Untold Tales of Spider-Man. And those Kurt Busiek and Pat Olaf were doing a retro Silver Age book where issue number 1 was really Amazing Spider-Man 1.5. Issue number 2 of Untold Tales of Spider-Man was really Amazing Spider-Man 2.5. Each issue took place in between the Silver Age books. And then I will pick this stuff up all day long and stuff, right? 1993, I had a solid 80 well, we'll do a random number. We'll say 85 issue run of Uncanny X-Men. And I sold it in 1993 for a couple $100. I was 20 years old. That tells you how attached I was to the X-Men. But I think I kept like my More Like Massacre stuff. I loved the crossovers. The More Like Massacre, I kept my X Factor stuff at that time. But yeah. There you go. So I picked this stuff anywhere. I've rebuilt it way since then. I've had, and like I said, I had a couple of issues around the Paul Smith era that I kind of kept anyway that weren't together. But yeah, I had a solid run that I sold there, and I had a couple of spares and extras around. The John Romita Jr. years was what was really going on around the time that I jumped on with the Asgardian Wars by Art Adams. And I reserved the right for like when I start remembering this better to come back and talk about it. Okay, so there's that. How are we doing out there, guys? Y'all want to see some more stuff? We got and then the fans revolted. Marvel listened and changed their plans. Now that would do it, just despite the long-term fans. You're right, Eric Breen, regarding the Spider-Man clone saga that I just, that was just such a disgusting time. It really was with Marvel, such a disgusting time, for fans and stuff, right? So let's look at a few more things here, and then I'll get topical, sort of, more or less. So I tell you what, man, the best thing that happened, and it shames me. It really does shame me because the first issue of Alter Ego. Okay, first of all, let me back up. This is Tomorrow's Publishing, and from what I understand, this company is probably. Oh wait a minute, Paolo popped in here. Hey, I got used to Pat Olaf on Nomad, but I made the superhero. But I made. Okay, I got used to Pat Olaf on Nomad. I remember Nomad. There was a show called Renegade, and I'm trying to think who the actor was because it cracked me up how this guy was becoming huge, I guess, thanks to his Renegade show or whatever it was. But it turns out he was actually in Greece as the doofus that Sandy was dating, the football player. That was sort of funny. And when I remember that first issue of Nomad coming out around 92 or 93, I was like, it's Renegade. Oh my God. Anyway, he was packing a baby around on a papoose on his back while he was blazing them guns and getting that 5 o'clock shadow. Yeah, it was 1992 or 93, and he looked like a 1986 version of Cobra or something. It was weird. Anyway, I got used to Pat Olaf on Nomad, but he made the mistake. He made the heroes look too simplistic. Olaf had a good style for urban gothic, but he never did anything I liked. He's not somebody I dislike. He did some really good work on the third Marvel versus DC miniseries. I think he actually did this. Oh man, I'm gonna have to dig it out now. Access, Marvel DC Access. I'm looking at the box that it's in. Anyway, I just had those out a couple months ago, so I should remember better. But anyway, Alter Ego, Tomorrow's Publishing, right? First time I got an issue of anything from Tomorrow's Publishing. This is Roy Thomas and a guy named Mike Urey. Roy Thomas does a book called Alter Ego, okay? And they Kirby collectibles and stuff, right? Like I thought I had one here. Anyway, and then Mike Urey is over the back issue, right? And they sort of have a gentleman's agreement. I actually ended up talking to Mike Urey several times since about 2015. And if Scott Connor was here, he was there for a couple of conversations, and I'm sure he's had his own conversations with them because they kind of live locally, apparently. I think this company is out of Charlotte or around North Carolina or something. Anyway, but Mike Urey let me know there's sort of a gentleman's agreement. Roy gets like from the 40s to the 60s to cover in Alter Ego, And then he has 70s on up. That's just sort of an understanding. So back issue magazine has just been fantastic. But I got my first issue of Alter Ego that captures golden and silver age stuff was when John Buscema passed away, and they had the tribute issue. I was like, how am I going to get this? This is like 2001 or 2 or something like that. Still had dial up. I was like, how am I going to get this? I go to Heroes Con on a Sunday, and I find it at the Tomorrow's table at Heroes Con, right? And like I said, that was back in the day where I would love to tell you these great stories of Heroes Con in the 90s and early 2000s. But man, I'd go in on a Sunday, hit the boxes. All the books would be discounted because these guys didn't want to take stuff home. It's the last day, and I got out of there. My head was in boxes, right? So anyway, this is back issue that is themed. Like I said, this was replaced because it was damaged for you guys coming in late. But anyway, we get to see some of the alternative comics of yesteryear. The 80s indie heroes and stuff, right? And like I said, I've pulled out Amazing Heroes or some comic news magazines from the 80s. They had a top 100 list, and they also had like the top 10 alternative books. That's when they were called alternative. I also was listening to, I do stuff. I play around on YouTube a whole lot. And one of the things I've been trying to do one of the things I've been trying to do to entertain myself while driving is that people have put up radio broadcasts from the 70s and 80s. And I've been looking for college radio. Before music was called alternative radio or alternative music, I found out it was called college radio. In the 80s, it was early college radio before it became alternative music and really popped in the 90s and stuff. Anyway, this is what I do, man. I love this stuff, and this era of history we live in is really fantastic. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. So anyway, if you are into the American Aztec Ace, that's the one I'm interested in. Dynamo Joe. Why I'm not interested in this, I don't know, because from kindergarten to about 3rd grade, I was all about the giant robots. Zot. Sorry, guys. I read some Zot by Scott McCloud. I found it underwhelming, yet at the same time, I could see why people were really into it. Nothing negative. It just doesn't, that 1 or 2 issues I read doesn't click with me. So you can throw out some, hey, you want me to check out Zot? Tell me exactly what to look at, okay? Tracker, Megaton Man. I tell you what, Megaton Man, first, I'm reading some of that 80s stuff. I used to laugh my ass off at this stuff, and it didn't feel so heavy. This book is so left-leaning now, it comes off as condescending instead of funny. Now, isn't that funny how times can change over 37, 38 years? So there you go, man. Yeah. And like I said, when I met Dave Stevens, is that? No. I never met Dave Stevens. Slash that. I don't know why that happened. What's in my head? Who does Megaton Man? Let's get some coffee out of the Peanuts coffee cup and see if the memory comes back. I can literally see his name across the top of his book. Anyway, when I met the guy that does Megaton Man, you talk about like just a very weird, bitter vibe a little bit and stuff. I don't know. I thought it was just jet lag. I could be reading into it. And then here's the stuff, man. Okay, I will not get every issue. I've got a guy named, I think Tom Bagley is his name. He is currently, it feels like to me, going through my entire catalog of videos, and he's up to 2013, and he'll comment on a video, and I'll have to kind of rewatch that video for what his comment is, right? And I found the video he commented on one of the videos where I got a ton of these Kirby collectors and I think some Alter Ego books for $1 a piece. And I'm so glad I cataloged these on YouTube because I don't remember. You know what I mean? Like I have a ton of Kirby collectors and stuff, and the collected Kirby collectors and stuff, that I can't believe that this book has been getting published, I guess, for close to 20 years. This is spring 2024. And I don't know, it comes out, like I said, spring, so I guess it's a quarterly book. And the Kirby collector is full of Kirby art with the Kirby estate, unreleased art, stories behind it, people are remembering. And I tell you what, this current fandom every now and then really pisses me off because they had this fantastic original art in this one. As you can see, it was replaced. I mean, we get stuff like he did this card for somebody of Conan as a gift. I don't know if it's ever really published. You get all these great articles on them. I mean, it's a good thing this does come out quarterly because they pack it full. Check out that Kirby art from the 30s. Yeah, that's Jack Kirby in the 30s. So yeah, so we get this original art, and you guys know Omac is one of my favorite characters, not just Kirby characters ever. That the 70s Commandy Omac stuff, I love, right? So the guy writing this, gives a little bit of commentary about some of this art, and he freaking killed me because he said that the peacekeepers of the earth that run things, the peace agency in OMAC that run things, are all anonymous. They don't they don't want people to know their race and things like that. So they wear these masks. And I always thought this was very question like, and Grant Morrison even put that in Final Crisis a little bit, I think. I don't know. Anyway, I always thought this was very question like because you can see they had this mask on, right? And the masks were colored orange, super orange. Now, what pissed me off is I'm sitting here enjoying my magazine, and this guy is sort of like, oh, look at this. It's poorly established that, of course, they would have Caucasian masks. I'm like, are you fucking serious? So, yeah, this stuff is just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't care that I'm 51 years old and more cranky than I was 20 years, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know. And here is the second book of Akira. As you can see me in this little one, here's the Akira thing. So my wife got this for me 2 years ago. I can't remember if it was a birthday or a Christmas present. And thank goodness, I'm very grateful she got it. But I was even more grateful when I found out she found it on sale, right? Because that was a very super generous gift. She always gets me the best stuff, right? And I flew through the first three. There's 5 books, I think. 5 books, I think, and then there's an extra book in there of other stuff, right? And I have to tell you, I have slowed down, right? In between all my reading, I made my way through the first book. I'm now taking my time, and then we are in the second book, right? And this book was created from 82 to, I can't remember if it was 87 or 89, but this thing took its time. And then I've watched the Akira manga. Anime, excuse me, the Akira, this is the manga, the Akira anime many times. I have it right over there on DVD. I've been watching it on Hulu on a streaming service in pieces and stuff, right? And what is great about having the same writer slash artist being over the anime is that the anime came out much like a lot of things apparently do over there, because Elfin Lie did the same thing. I'm gonna get off there anyway. But anyway, the anime came out before the story of Akira was finished. So what happens is now that I've taken my time and I'm starting over reading this, the anime started out, and it was like it had a little. When it started out, it was in the billiards room. That's in this. If you've read this, right? And then it finally made its way to the first page. So you got to see why I don't want to ruin anything, why the ghostly little kid, if you will, was on the highway when this started out, right? So now it's like I need to read the manga, and I slowed down and stopped the anime because it seems like they kind of weave together, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not seeing things that aren't there. And I know they're going to have the same ending. And I've loved that it's been so long since I've watched the anime. It's kind of spotty, as it goes on, I remember it as it goes on. The anime, it's one of the few animes that I can tell you about the artwork and the images and the scenes more than I can tell you the story, because it just blew my mind the first time I saw it. And I think the first time I saw it was, I can't remember. I cannot remember. It feels like I watched Hellraiser 2 and then I popped in Akira on VHS as a rental. I don't know. So we'll put that to the side, but that's what I'm reading. Oh, here's another Justice League International Mike McCone annual. I don't know why that's in there. I already have it. And the last thing we're going to show, ladies and gentlemen, I've already showed this. This was a birthday gift where, again, I'm so glad she got this. I looked it up on Amazon, and it was much cheaper than what it would have been on sale. The one I found was $40, so I haven't opened it yet to see how much it was retail. I've forgotten. But this is the Fourth World by John Byrne Omnibus. Okay. And like I said, in the late 90s, early 2000s, John Byrne and Walt Simonson came in and sort of took over the Fourth World book that was coming out. They had a New Gods book going on. And then they ended up turning it into Jack Kirby's Fourth World. That's the proper term, right? And John Byrne was writing, doing art. They were pulling in everything that had to do with Jack Kirby's Fourth World. You had the New Gods, Forever People, Mr. Miracle, Tachyon, everything in one book because it was Jack Kirby's Fourth World, right? And then they had a miniseries that came out called Genesis, which was supposed to be their crossover event. It was 4 issues and it had to do with the Source Wall, and all heroes' powers had something to do with the Source, you know, and all that stuff, right? Well, it tanked. And apparently what they're explaining is that if you were not reading Jack Kirby's Fourth World, that miniseries and all the crossovers made no sense. Later on, I can't remember if it was after this time or during this time, you had Walt Simonson come on and do a 25-issue Orion story that is fantastic. I'm about 4 or 5 issues away from completing that. So, yeah, this is little things, and these are just comic books. This isn't Vertigo. This isn't super sophisticated. This is them just telling a flat forward comic book story, and if you're a fan of these characters, you're a fan of these characters. So this has all of that stuff in there, and I'm about to break it open because I'm reading a book called Kings of the Wild. I'm making my way through Akira. I'm also making my way through my gallery edition of Jim Starlin's Warlock, and I'm reading some of these magazines. So I'm sort of taking my time getting through this, and this will be the next big thing. Okay. So I'm back. All right. Let's take down the cam. And what do we got here? Nice. See what we got going on here. We have some comments. And guys, I think we're still doing well, but they're being stubborn, showing me the comments. They're going to upload all at once I start playing with it here. Okay. 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 JLS Comics remembers Whisper. Let's go up a little bit more. There we go. JLS Comics, good morning. Great to see you. I remember enjoying Whisper quite a bit, as did I. I actually have an issue or two here. I don't know why I said that. I automatically kicked it. I did not read Whisper when it came out, but I've got an issue or two here, and I'm like, not bad, not bad. I have a few of those Kirby Collector Treasure size issues. Great to see Kirby art at any size. I can look at it all day long, Fireball, all day long. Okay, I have that book collecting all the webcomic tracker from Dark Horse and Image. I love Ron Randall. I saw Ron Randall. You talk about an unappreciated artist who's been around for a while, if he's still around. I don't know. But yeah, he was one of the first artists I associated with Dark Horse. And then I found out retroactively that I had a ton of his stuff and stuff, right? Just a workhorse who just sort of could just tell a straightforward comic book story, man. So yeah, and I was so glad that in one of these DVDs, I don't know if it's a comic book movie and it's an extra or if it was a flat out proper documentary, but I remember seeing Ron Randall finally getting interviewed for one of them while he was drawing. I wonder what that was now that I'm sitting here talking to you. Oh, let's see. Don Simpson. Thank you guys. Thanks to JLS Comics. Thanks to a Pilgrim. God, tell me about it, man. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Don Simpson. I met him, and I think it was last year, either last year or the year before at Heroes Con. I met him, and it was. I don't know. It was different. I love Disney and comics. I loved Akira when I saw it, but never had the books. Been waiting to collect those. I've got some of the Epic line of comics that came out. Am I going to be able to find them? Anyway, right here is all of my anime stuff. Wait a minute. Let me get it straight. Manga stuff. I'm very particular with what I get and what I like. But I have 3 or 4 issues of the Epic line of Akira books. And from what I can tell after watching videos, doing a little research, talking to people in real life about these, apparently the Marvel books that they put out in the late 80s, going to early 90s, that was the best adaptation of the manga into America. So that's the one people seem to really like. I'm fine with these hardback editions. I think they're fantastic. The problem with a lot of people have with these is that all the dialogue is in English, but they left the sound effects with the Japanese language, and you have to look in the glossary in the back to see what kind of sound effects they are, right? But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I don't care if it sounds condescending or not. If there is a motorcycle going down the highway, I think you can hear the in your head. Okay, I think sometimes sound effects are not that hard to imagine. But, everybody, here we go. Ron Randall is around. He turned Tracker into a webcomic many years ago, sells collected editions and crowdfunding campaigns. Sounds like that's what a lot of those old school guys are doing. Oh, WFMU is a college radio station. I will look that up. Oh, excuse me, guys. I'm going to write that down and see if there's any WMFU radio broadcast uploaded to. Yeah, and just to let you know, I mean, people do this on their own. There's people, I know what they did because I did it a few times with J104 around here, but you would put in a cassette in your radio and just record the radio, hoping to get the songs and stuff, right? And then I also look up old Dr. Demento episodes that are on YouTube, and it turns out he has a website you supposedly can go to listen to his catalog. But I tell you what, that stuff from the 70s and early 80s is fantastic. And then the episodes I found from the 90s, there was definitely a change in the culture. You can feel it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I look up old Dr. Demento episodes, just radio broadcast. A lot of them are from New York, amazingly enough. I found a little talk radio, and I remember why I didn't like talk radio. It's horrible. I mean, people think they get mad about Howard Stern. No, he ain't shit compared to some of that stuff they were pulling back in the 80s, making fun and belittling people that called in. And then you had to wonder, are these real people or are they playing characters? It was that bad. Okay, so just to get a little bit topical here, and then we'll be calling it a day, guys. My buddy Josh, I love telling you all the story of how I got here and why I'm doing this and stuff, right? So there's a channel called Sticky Goose something, right? I know a guy in Bluefield that likes this channel. Josh watches this channel or check in. I found Sticky Goose when he was still doing the road trips a couple years ago. I could go back and probably find him, but he was like on a highway in West Virginia, and he was going to some guy's house that had this it looked like the whole first floor of his house was his immaculate collection and stuff. And you got to understand, by this time this was on, I've been watching comic book videos since like 2010 and stuff, right? The stuff doesn't grab me like it used to, right? There's just so many haul videos and things like that you can see and stuff, right? So it's just from time. So I did laugh because Sticky Goose ended up going to a shop in Princeton, and in the same video or the next video, he ended up going to a shop in Roanoke, Virginia. And that's when people were really talking about him, because he walked into the shop and said he was kicked out and stuff. And I was chuckling, not so much because I was ready to see the drama, but it was because I knew just enough about seeing what Sticky Goose does for his videos. Rubbing people the wrong way and calling, dealers out and stuff, almost, in his videos and stuff like that, that I knew the person, I ran across the person. That's Josh knows him better than I. But for years, I remember the dude being in a flea market, setting up a shop called in a place called Happy Mart Flea Market in Roanoke, Virginia, back in 2009 and 10. And then he had a shop on Williams. I know where the shop is, Williamson Road, I think, or something like that. And I just knew the guy. I knew that this personality and this personality, we're about to see water and oil mix. And I was really like, like I can't wait to see how this goes. So anyway, Josh ended up sending me this video. I'm going to go blank, where he's talking about new people are leaving, new collectors are leaving the hobby and stuff, right? And Josh even said in there in the comment, like, he talks about a few things that he and I have talked about on our road trips and stuff over the last year and a half and stuff. We've taken several road trips and hung out on my birthday and with some of my other friends and stuff like that. So we've had many conversations. So I was listening to this, and he wasn't really saying anything new, but I think it had more to do with being a seasoned collector and seeing trends and seeing people come in. And it wasn't anything new, but I think it's because of the times we live in. You can find this stuff much easier and get more information about how it's happening. But yes, there are people leaving. I call them tourists. If I remember how I titled this, it's there it is. Tourists are quitting comics again, right? So just to back up and lead up to today, But it made news when Superman was dying. And I actually was working in a comic book shop. And I actually had a helper and I were in this little comic book shop that would fit in this room here at a mall. And across the street was a hospital and things like that. But the line was going out the door. And I could actually see doctors walking, people with stethoscopes in their ties and stuff. I could actually see them crossing the road and walking across the parking lot. Everybody wanted the death of Superman, right? And Image was hitting, and everybody, and there was many articles and people have talked about it. And it's really weird for me to say this because there's people watching this going to dip out because you know what I'm talking about, right? So everybody thinks they're going to get this comic in 20 years, they're going to buy a car, put their kid through college and retire and stuff, right? So they're out. Right, the FOMO was out, and then you had Image Comics going on. Everybody wanted those first issues. This is our chance to be a part of Marvel again in 1961, since we weren't there and we missed out to get that Fantastic Four #1. So this has happened many times over the years. You get people that come in. And people used to get mad here on YouTube if you use the term fake fan or little sensitive things like that. They were very insecure and things like that. Or and then later on, the word was gatekeeper and stuff. It's because we could see why you were here and we were trying to be nice and like maybe you'll catch on and want to be a comic book collector stuff. But there is a difference between coming in and buying comics and looking at the money and filling it out and not getting grabbed by whatever the X factor is with comics. Okay. So Sticky Goose was talking about there's people that are coming out, they're new, they've been spending a lot of money on comics and getting those keys, and they specifically named Comic Tom and Jim Mint Collectibles, and I have plenty that I could or could not say about them and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is no surprise. They're leaving. I have said here on this channel before and had talks with many other people that people are getting steered wrong. People are trying to watch these videos. They're coming in very trusting, very young, and they seem to think that if they're on YouTube, they're a celebrity and they know what they're talking about instead of them having more or less a business with what they're doing. So there's been like for 3 or 4 years, there's been people like in me, like warning people about this. I've been more of a warning of the spec market, kind of disgusted with the misinformation. Never really, I don't think I made it personal, but could be wrong, and stuff like that. So I've been saying that the market doesn't work this way. People are spending a lot of money and they're getting out. So what I'm predicting is this is what happened with the 90s, and this is what happened in the late 90s, and this is what happened around, oh God, was it the 52? Maybe a little bit in the mid 2000 teens and stuff that I've seen personally. People are going to start dumping their comics. And I'm going to be real interested to see how this influx of people selling, what's going to happen to the market now, because usually when this happened, this is why the market goes up and down. Everybody had a hot book and then went down. But what's happened in the last couple of years is new to me. It's because you have these speculator channels saying that these are the hot books, 10 hot books per week. And if you go look at a Comic Book Tom channel, look specifically at the 2 videos a week. I looked at this before this morning before we did the show, and I was looking at Jim Mint Collectibles the other day. But you go in there and you'll see top 10 hot books, top 10 current hot books. Okay, they get, I don't know, what was it, 9,000 to 14,000 views. But when they make a regular video, the 2 that I'm looking at now, I think they're going through a collection trying to find keys. And the other one was they had I didn't click on the video, but it has something to do with the casing. If you get your comics graded, those things are lucky to get 1,000 views, 1,500 views and stuff. So they don't have the fans they think they have. They're there because people they have their fans. But people are there thinking they're going to make money. This is nothing new. This isn't even a slight. This is why I've always said, and seasoned collectors know this isn't how the market works, right? But this is going to be the first time where they had a reach out where we actually have a number. There's at least 12 to 14,000 people watching that. You have people that are curious, people who know better, but they still watch it. You have people who've had comic book shops. I've seen the videos in the groups where I was in a chat with somebody one time in a private video, a private hangout, if you will, where he flat out told me he watches their videos and then he goes to the store at 10 o'clock at night so he can go through his back issue bins, to get those books out before everybody piles up the next day. So it's going to be so if you have a comic book channel where you're not doing the speculation, you're not big on drama, and I was sitting here thinking it was because when I do a live stream, YouTube doesn't show me the views anymore. It used to be I'd get 75 to 80 hits per show of people popping in and out, and some people staying the whole time and whatnot. Not a big deal. And all of a sudden, I'm not getting those views anymore, right? So I'm not hitting 200, 300 when you see it. No big deal. Well, what I found out is I've actually had people, I've said it before, over the last year and a half, actually since Comicsgate. When Comicsgate hit years ago, a bunch of people got out. They told me they were getting out. They said why they were getting out, and I actually do hear from them every now and then. They will pop up here in a chat, or I'll get something from them. But all the stuff going on, I'm kind of wondering how the market's going to get hit if it's as many people as it appears selling their comics and getting out. I have seen it around here for like the last 2 years. I've been saying people are getting out. The flea markets are drying up. The people I know are telling me they're getting out. I'm just wondering myself how widespread that is past my, if I threw a circle right where I'm at and I go about 3 hours, that's a pretty good idea of where my line of sight is. And that covers a lot. That covers Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, a little bit of Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, 4 or 5 states, a few comic book shops that are still around, and some of the best comic book conventions going on with dealers who go further out than that, right? They go up way up into West Virginia, all the way down to Dragon Con in Atlanta. So I feel pretty good informed, at least for my region, right? But this, again, this is like watching Mid-Atlantic Wrestling in the 80s, and there's a World Wrestling Federation up north. Who knows? You know, regional stuff. I can go to Walmart and pick up a bunch of Legos, and if I put in the UPC numbers on eBay instead of saying it's a Lego, people in Seattle will pay me, $80 for something I paid $5 for. That's happened. So it's just getting real curious that these people are out, but it's not that big a deal because there are always people who come in and they spend a lot of money and they do it very stupidly, and they don't want to hear, they don't want to take advice. These people have always been there, and it's different degrees. I don't want to paint everybody the same. Everybody has a different story, but I think the word for them is tourist. Now, and I don't know where I got that word, but I've been using it off and on for 2 or 3 years. I know I probably heard it in a movie or a YouTube channel or something. I don't want to say I tagged that one, but this is unusual. But this is the first time where a glut of people have gone on here and seen the speculator channels and went for it. And now I'm just kind of shaking my head like, you've been told, not just by me. So, and they are getting out. And like I said, for like the last 2 years, I've had people flat out tell me they while they were getting out and what they were getting rid of. I just didn't really put it all together how many it was. So it's substantial and stuff, right? So let's see what we got here. Anyway, that's your topic of today. If you want me to talk about Ed Piscar and the video I took down, I will, or I can save it for next week. And I've got people coming in who weren't here at the beginning or the middle. The end of the month, I'm having minor surgery. Make sure you like, subscribe, thumbs it up, and hit that bell, because I might not make a video, or within 2 or 3 days of whatever my recovery time is, I'm going to be stuck at home. I may do some videos. All right. When I was young, we would socialize much more in the comic book shop. Yeah. I think that aspect has died down for comic collectors. So we watched the haul videos. The card gamers still socialize at shops. I remember when they were taken over, but you didn't think they were taken over. And I'm not being derogatory. I'm stating a fact. I would go to a Books A Million. I would go to a comic book shop, Johnson City, okay, Bristol, and then Roanoke. The stuff went on for a while. It was Pokemon, Magic, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Apparently seems to be, at least in this area, the big one now. I don't know. I didn't know there was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon thing where they kind of look down on Pokemon like, haha, nobody knows how to play that game or whatever. I don't know what kind of diss that is, but I've seen it. But what got us is that, what got us, and I'm being dead serious, man, it was like it stunk. These kids and young adults did not fucking bathe. You know, I mean, like it was like you would walk through there, man, and you always had at least 2, 3 of them that would make you fucking gag from the smell of the ass sweat and the fucking, 2-week-old socks they were wearing or something. God almighty. Anyway. Good morning, Comic Crack. Good morning. I went a little fast there. I was reminiscing about the smells. Good morning. And good morning, Pilgrim. I think you've been here a little bit. Jonathan Suko, Akira is entirely overrated. I don't know, man. I don't know. If it doesn't grab you, it doesn't grab you, but it does have some accomplishments. I do have to say it does have merit. My problem with trying to defend certain things that came out during the 80s is you had to be there to see how big of a jump it was. You know what I mean? With Crisis on Infinite Earth and Watchmen, I usually tell people, get you a couple of books. What have I got around me? Oh, there's a bunch of Flash comics right there would be perfect for me to hold up. But go back and get a bunch of comics from like 1982 to 84, read those, and then read Watchmen. See, it's kind of like how Akira is, right? I wish I could pull up there's a great one, Nausicaa, Warriors of the Wind. And I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just letting you know that that's why there we go. Nausicaa, Warrior of the Wind. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, right? This is a anime, or shit. This is a manga that started in the late 70s. And then we got a cut in 1984, 85 in America where it was chopped up and it was very bad. And it was called Warriors of the Wind. And the box cover and the poster that I used to have has characters on it that weren't even in the movie or they were misrepresentative. I mean, good God, the Warriors of the Wind poster that they had, movie poster that they had a guy riding a Pegasus that's not even in the movie, and things like that, right? So it was out. That's why I'm real picky about what I watched. It was horrible. Speed up to 2001 or so, and Disney comes in, talks the creator. I'm going to try to say his name. I'll butcher it this morning, and I'll be able to say it perfect when I'm walking around noon. He comes in and they talk. John Lasseter, I think, talks to him from Pixar, and we get real actors coming in and real voice coaches, and all of a sudden we get this great stuff. That's kind of how Akira was. Akira was the first real good cut to come over here, and from my standpoint. So is it overrated or is it dated? If you were there, neither of those apply. If you weren't, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I'm real careful not to. When they made a big deal about Marvel bringing out Miracle Man in 2014, this is why I was nervous. I'm like, oh no, you had to be there. I knew. Plus, the mystique of it made it bigger than what it was over the decades. You know what I mean? The mystique of it not being there and people who weren't there and getting a few issues here and there. It grew what it was. That's how it became overrated. Is the mystique that was out of everybody's control of it growing over the years. Okay, Crack, I think you made an Ed Piscard video, so I'm going to go ahead and make a few comments here, and I don't want to polarize anybody, right? And it's not even an issue, right? So 2 weeks ago, Ed Piscard was in a little bit of trouble, and I think we've gone far enough now to where it's died down online, right? And I've been around Ed Piscard at Heroes Con, and then also, full disclaimer, I didn't really realize this till afterwards, but I was a little touchy about the fact that he was, I don't even want to say allegedly because he admitted that he was talking to an underage girl online and stuff, right? I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old stepson, and it's inappropriate. There's no other way around it. And what bothers me is if you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you find yourself talking to people online that age, you're supposed to have some bells and whistles go off, that goes on. So I was completely honest with how I felt about Ed Piscard and what he got himself into it. And I used the word dumbass. I didn't think he was dangerous, but I'm like, you're a dumbass for doing that. The next day, I find out that he has passed away. Now, 2014, I think I have a video of me going around my hometown of Richlands. I think it's 13, 14, right? Little did I know that 7, 8 years ago, I would go back to the place I used to work, and my director, while I'm having a meeting with him, we talk business shop. I leave, and he goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, I was looking at videos on my hometown, and he had found it 7 years later." Now, what Ed Piscar did, how he went out, I feel bad for his family and his real fans, the people who did talk about Cartoonist Kayfabe while it was going, the people who did collect his books, and the people that did talk about him on the show. You know, it's standard. He had his fans, his people, right? But unfortunately, I see Ed Piscar as a person or a man, and I felt horrible for those fans, but more importantly, I felt horrible for his family. I still feel like he was a dumbass, and I think he took the coward's way out. And I also know that he was part of the Whisper Network that he called out. So all the way around the way he went out, I'm just sort of like shaking my head. None of this is good. And being on YouTube for so long and watching YouTube for so long, I knew that this was going to be a hot button topic. You're going to have people come out who were legitimately sad that he went down and very forgiving. You have a thing that I'm missing. There's a thing I'm missing in me where I remember people that I personally knew when they pass away. I remember all of it, the good and the bad. And we seem to have a thing about when somebody passes away, we bring up the good stuff and lift them up and stuff like that. That's necessary, and I get it, right? So with all that's going on and me having kids and looking at it, and I'm also a social worker since 1995 in different areas. I started out in group homes before I ended up in offices and working with clients with children and CPS. And I spent 6 years working in schools, being contracted out to schools and stuff like that and stuff. My bells and whistles went out. Like I said, I never thought he was dangerous, but there was a lot of inappropriateness. So when his note came out of him saying goodbye, we'll put it that way so I don't get tagged here and stuff, he basically admitted to what I said in my video. He was really only guilty of being stupid is how he put it, but I used the word dumbass, right? So over the next week, it was exactly what I knew was going to happen on YouTube. People were making a martyr of him for going against cancel culture, and they named people the campy and all this stuff like that. So I dipped out a little bit. I was like, I knew that was coming. This has happened before. And then you had a few people come out that I'm subscribed to that made videos where they were legitimately sad, and they were legitimately sad about what was going to happen to cartoon, concerned about what was going to happen to the channel and things like that. And I'm like, my God, these are adults. You know what I mean? There's just some of that is just part of the drama that's going to go on YouTube. And you know, you can't control everything, but you can control how you react to it and stuff, right? So I knew this was going to last about a week to 10 days is what I thought, because I've seen this stuff before. And then here we are 2 weeks out, and I haven't seen Ed Piscar mentioned at least for a week, you know, things like that. So for his family, for what he did to his family, for what he did with his fans, and for him, until I hear there was some depression or mental illness that predated all this stuff like that, I think he went out like a coward. I really do. You know, at the end of the day, I totally have been in situations like divorce and life-changing events and things like that. I'm trying to think if I've ever been in major trouble. I totally get the panic, the overwhelmness. I'll validate being in the mess and being scared to death. I mean, I can get a lot of that. But at the end of the day, you know, I hate to go something that sounds like it's lowbrow, but it's not. But there's a speech by Al Bundy where he says the fact that he gets up every freaking day without doing something to himself, that's why he's a winner. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's about it. So it was really out of respect for the off chance that the family, somebody in the family or his friends would start doing his things, because the video took off. I was about to have a viral video. The video, if I looked at my social blade right, or whatever I looked at, my analytics and stuff, I got 188 hits in an hour, if that was real time. So I was like, yeah. Okay, so that's the uncomfortable topic, and you know, apologies for anybody that's a fan of Ed Piscar and stuff like that, but I feel like he slighted you just as much as he did his family and stuff. So we can agree to disagree, because like I'm not that emotional about it and stuff. But the only thing is what I left out is I was asked about it. People got a hold of me on Instagram and stuff that said whenever something like this major news happens, they want to hear what I have to say about it, because I think I've got a little bit of a reputation of having a level head about this thing. But the fact that I've got a stepkid and a daughter around the same age as the people he was talking to, that he admits to, I'm sort of like, no. Okay, let's do these comments. We might call it a day. I've had a blast with you guys. Something that surprised me during the speculation period is how they would slab anything. Issue 22 of Triple X comic that this came out. Wow, why are you playing the sub with that? The thing is that from what I understand, there is, and this may not be the answer, right? But I remember watching the slabbing starting to happen and take over. And I've got a few friends who dabbled in, and they're like, it's a scam. And then I've got a few friends, and they all know each other, who they're into the slabbing, right? My thing is I'm not for it, but it's been going on for so long. I'm not against it either. I really have no opinion on it. But my thing is that if I slab a book, and the videos are on there, people have done videos where they unslab a book after 20 years and stuff. If you're new into comics, or you are a highbrow collector, or there's reasons you're doing this, you know exactly what you're buying. Okay, I get it. It's got the number on it. It's cataloged electronically in a filing system, whatever they do. My thing is that there's too much fraud. And I remember about a year or two ago, I was on here saying the fraud is too big. It's too wide open for fraud. Something's going to happen. Nobody really agreed with me. And then we had what happened a couple months ago, where they found out people are doing the reslabbing of they were doing things, right? And it was a big scandal. And I can't believe it's died down and stuff, right? But the thing about it is that, okay, I got this book slabbed today. It's in a clear case. Yes, they put in the piece of acid-free paper in it and stuff. It's still aging inside of that book. It is not an airtight, sealed, vacuum sealed book. The book it's like buying a car. As soon as you go up the car lot, it's already depreciating. And then they're never really going to give you, I think there's more books out there that are deserving of a 10.0 by their rules. But if people get the thrill of the hunt in the chase, and they make them want that, they're going to chase that dragon hoping to get a 10. So they can't give them out left and right. If it becomes a common thing, it's not going to be the unicorn. You know what I mean? And if you follow carnivals and stuff like that, a lot of unicorns just end up being goats with cosmetic surgery. You know what I mean? So same thing there. I mean, the thing is I'm sort of an everyday guy, and I really suck a lot of the drama out of this stuff and the fun out of it for people. And, I'm just a realist with some of this stuff. Okay, I love Disney's on here. I love the Nausicaa movie. Brought my kids up on it, and all the Hayao Miyazaki. I'm going to say that perfect when we're off here. God, my favorite is Howl's Moving Castle. I think that's my wife's favorite. Yeah, we have quite a few of them on DVD and Blu-ray, and of course, they're on Max. Anybody wants to check these wonderful movies out. For a long time, Nausicaa will always be my favorite, but oh my God. I can see it right on the tip of my tongue. Anyway. Good point about Watchmen, Miracle Man. It had such an impact that affected the comics that came out after it, to the extent that if a younger person reads it now, it won't see some groundbreaking. Exactly. Four of the most influential comics of the 80s, two were kind of overlooked, but they were getting all kinds of attention around the early 2000s with Authority. And it was because in maybe the 96, but because of Alex Ross. Squadron Supreme by Mark Grunwald, which I've talked about here extensively. If it wasn't for that, there'd be no Authority, more or less, and stuff, and no Kingdom Come. That was the book where the first time the heroes became proactive instead of reactive, and decided they were going to change things on a more or less on a world scale, so yeah. The other, to me, you got Martial Law, you have Squadron Supreme, Watchmen, and Dark Knight Returns. And where I didn't have access to Watchmen, Squadron Supreme was my Watchmen when I was 12. Okay, I love Disney. That's awesome, Howler. I had a foster parent for about 10 years, adopted 2 sons. Social workers don't get enough praise for the time they put in and terrible things they have to see. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Shoo. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not going to say too much right now because yeah, comic tourism is a interesting topic. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it, man. If you don't, you can't be an ex. I wish I tagged this when I was going on the rant a little bit, but I have no. It's not that I have a problem. I have no problem with new people getting into the hobby. You got to give them a wide berth. You know, I mean, when we did it, it was us going to the newsstand or finding a stack of comics. Like with me, the stepdad and the uncle had them in the house, and you go out and you're playing around. I mean, there's plenty of, I mean, thank God they were like 35, 40, 60 cents and stuff when I was really starting out. Because I would have wasted a lot of money finding my way and figuring this out and starting to put things together. That was part of the joy. That was part of the fun. I would do it all over again. I've said many times, I wish I could go back in time and be able to read The Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns for the first time. Those are the only two books that really did that to me. That feeling I had when I read those. I was at Watch. I think I read both of those in '88. That can't be right. I've talked about it before. I've got the books here. I can look up, but the first trade, maybe '87. Hold on. So for you people that don't know, this complete Frank Miller Batman, my grandmother snuck and bought this for me because I had such good grades, and my mom was like, he does not need that. So I spend the night with her at her house so I can watch Sting versus Flair for the first time on TBS. What is that? I can see it. It was the event they had free, so you would go against WrestleMania. But anyway, that legendary night, my grandmother was like in the kitchen, told me to come in there and pulled this out of her purse because we'd been at a Barnes and Noble that day. So we'll see what year this was. This is one of the things. If there's ever a fire, I'm grabbing this. 89. All right, guys, I've had it wrong for years. Apparently, I didn't read complete The Dark Knight Returns until 89. That's blowing my mind because I bought year one off the stands as it came out. Wow. Anyway, I always thought it was like 88. So that means I read Watchmen in 88 and this in 89 whenever that trade came out. Do I have the trade down here? I'll figure it out later. But anyway, didn't know I was going on a tangent, man. I'm just, whatever. But anyway, yeah, you got to give them a wide berth, let them figure it out. But it's when they had the greed, thinking they're going to get rich off of it. That's the problem, So it is quite possible to do it, but you still have to be knowledgeable about the hobby. If people came to the hobby and the first thing we tell them is the monetary value, they'll leave disillusioned. We're also missing the point. That's how the people are coming in with this generation. There's a big portion of them coming in. They've always been like that. There's always been people that think they're going to get collectibles and money. We should tell them about the stories, the literary value, the way they know a small number of comics are worth money. There you go. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And this isn't a secret. Paolo is a seasoned collector. I'm a seasoned collector. Other people are seasoned collectors that are in the comments and watch this channel. This is not news to us. You know what I mean? It's just being young, dumb, full of money, and not listening. We've all been there too. You know what I mean? You can't talk people out of stuff because of their age. There's a dignity of failure that people have to go through. Then they're able to listen. I think the next generation has the public library now. Yeah. Oh, and that's cool, man. I'm down for that. There are books I would love to read. There are comics I want to read, but I don't want to go buy. You know what I mean? Because I just want to check them out, see if they're worth it. So I think that's fantastic. I also think that online comics have always been nothing but a commercial for getting the real comic in your hand. So, however you feel about that, that's also, if that's the way you're introduced to comics and stuff, that feels completely normal to you. A lot of this stuff, you got to remember your age and a point of view and how this feels regular to people. We never had comics and graphic novels at the library. We didn't either, but the fact that they're there now, I don't know when it became a thing, but I want to say in the last 20 years. I told a friend it was odd none of the older Peacemaker comics have been reprinted officially and trade due to the show. I posted a cool cover I found online to show an old series next day in the dollar. I found the same cover I posted out of the blue. Gotcha. Yeah, it kind of blows my mind how some of these things, I think it was like a niche audience. But you also got to understand that trades didn't really become a thing until Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Trades were around. Oh, God. Now we're having fun here. So thanks to doing these live shows and many of some of the people that are in the comments, here's some early trades that Marvel put out, right? The Fantastic Four by John Byrne, The Trial of Galactus, and Incredible Hulk, Ground Zero and stuff, right? And people here, I know they're here and stuff, let me know that when they made these trades, they didn't they took out the subplots, things that didn't have to do with the direct story and stuff like that. And I remember checking on that, and I'm pretty sure that I found that to be true and stuff, right? But trades didn't really become a thing. You can thank Sandman #8 for being the story that made trade paperbacks become a thing. And that's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Because people that started the thing where people would not buy the monthly floppy books. But at the same time, they started changing over years and years. They started changing their writing style of comics having a trade paperback in mind. So that changed the pacing and the subplotting and changed a lot of things and stuff, right? So the fact that they didn't have a Peacemaker one, I totally get it, because maybe they're worried about money, or is the audience there? Is it a niche market, or there were other things going on? I can kind of see it. You know what I mean? Collecting things for money never goes well. I think Beanie Babies, 90s comps, Funko Pops, loved it. Yeah, we've all been there before. I've seen all these trends come and go, and people get into it now. I did the thing, and I talked about it. Was it 94? I think in 94, I really started getting into the keeping up with how much these books are worth and trying to get the keys and stuff. And I can honestly say that it bled over into my regular life. The hobby did. And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. So I really can't wrap my mind around staying in something very long like that. And like I said, there are ways to make money with this stuff, but you deal in bulk. Let's put it that way. Transmetropolitan was, oh my God, I'm gonna have to wrap it up, guys. My mouth's not working. Was the first series written for the trade. There we go. Okay, I can go with that. For trade, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna stew on that, Paolo. I know you're right, but I want to wrap my head around that a little bit. Yeah. So anyway, but trades really took off thanks to the same. I can actually show you the book. Do I not have it? Oh, they're not in order. All right, guys. So the first trade that I actually bought proper, and this is the very one, was Dream Country. Right. This is the third volume of Sandman. Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Right. And like I said, I'm going off the top of my head. I know I was going to show this stuff, right? But this trade, volume 2 of Sandman, The Doll's House, starts out with issue #8, The Sound of Her Wings. Neil Gaiman's introducing the character of Death in his stories. And this took off. Then they backed up and did volume 1 of The Sandman, Preludes and Nocturnes in trade. And they ended it with issue 8. So you had a whole new niche market coming in. You had people who weren't into comics, but they were into Neil Gaiman's Sandman and the character of Death and that whole goth feel and everything that was going on. And thanks to this, the trade market started becoming profitable and stuff. At least this is how they reported it during the 90s, okay, as it was going on. That's when I finally was getting around to comic book shops more often. We had one open up finally in my town, if you will. Didn't have to drive all the way to Bristol all the time. In Johnson City, they had two or three in Bristol, in Johnson City at the time. And you were starting to see different sorts of people in the comic book shops that you would normally see, not normally see, you know. So it's a good thing. It was a good thing. And then it started getting into like, oh God, what are these trades going to do? I didn't turn on my new thing here. Hold on. Yeah, I meant to have that going on in the background this whole time. Yeah, my Pac-Man light. I'm gonna have to move it. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna have to wrap it up. Not because I don't want to hang out with you and keep talking about this stuff, but my mouth is not working here. I got things to do. I hate to be that way. Can't believe it's almost 11. I remember the topic for collectors for profit being a thing in the very early 80s. I'll tell you what currently is really bothering me, right? And I can't let it go. And I end up warning people when they're telling me they're going to conventions and stuff and how was it when I met this person and things like that. But the thing that's really bothered me is I can kind of get it with key books. I kind of get it, right? But it's the price of signatures for comics. Last year at Heroes Con, I just gave up before I even got started because everybody had the sign. It looked like somebody made the same sign for everybody where they're telling you how much they're going to charge for signatures and if it's a key book and if it's this and if it's that and how the price kept going up. One hand, I totally get, hey, give me a little bit of money and I'll sign your books and stuff, 3 for this much, whatever. No big deal, right? But it's what's behind the thinking. It's the fact that you buy the book, your book blows up, it ends up being a key book. Let's go New Mutants number 98. That one I can see kind of justified, right? So Rob Liefeld is going to charge you X amount of money, a huge amount of money to sign that because their mindset is that you're going to put that on eBay and with their signature, it's going to be worth more money. And I don't get how they sit that, how that bothers them that the book is valuable or worth more money. They're acting like they're not getting a piece of that. I can't wrap my mind around that. You know what I mean? Like, you got paid for the work at the time. You could have had you probably have access to the comic yourself. They probably, you could get them to send your work. I've seen videos of these guys where they get complimentary books, from the company they're working at and stuff like that. But that is your comic. You have bought the comic. They got paid for it, for the work for hire and all that stuff. They got paid for it. And now they're mad because their signature will make the book worth more, but they're not getting a piece of that. I don't understand that. If I bought a car, you know what I mean, in 1955, and I'm immortal, and that car is now a collectible, and I'm gonna get a huge chunk of money for it, it's still my card. I don't have the car company coming after me or the guy that designed it and stuff saying I want a piece of that. So that's one thing when it's a big key comic. There's an argument to be made. It's still their signature. They know what they're doing. You're going to make some money off of it, so let's make you earn it. Whatever makes them feel better. And that's what I feel like. It makes them feel better, right? But when you have something like a common issue like Godland #1, God bless Tom Scioli, and I'm using him because he was one of the first, besides Roy Thomas signing some all-star squadrons and stuff, he was the first person when I knew I was actively going to start getting my comics signed at Heroes Con that signed my book. And when I handed him Godland #1, he took a blue ink pen and drew his name in bubble letters on it, like you did in like a 6th grade girl on her notebook. I'm sorry, but a signed copy of Tom Scioli is not going to go for hundreds of dollars on eBay. So I think that's the biggest scandal going on right now. I think that's the newest grift going on. And the second biggest grift is whoever's making the sign for all those writers and artists and stuff at Heroes Congo. They all look alike. They're all the same. They're all Xeroxed or whatever and stuff. That's the second biggest grift. Make your own damn sign. But then again, it's all comics, and at the end of the day, and I'm not going to Heroes Con this year. We are going to the beach with the family. So, and they got some great people showing up at Heroes Con. They just announced Steve Englehart, and I believe Steve Englehart, God, he's got to be in his 70s to 80s by now. Yeah, I think he was born in 1947. So, yeah, so that's one of the reasons I started getting some of my comics signed, as these people were aging out, if you will. And there's this limited amount of time, so, and stuff like that. So that's it, guys. You guys made me drag stuff out. I'm pointing the finger at you. I got to put it back up. I got things to do. And I could sit here and just hang out with you guys all day. Thanks for the 11 to, I think it was up to 20 people that showed up this morning live. The people have gone in and out and stuff. And have an excellent day and be excellent to each other, man. And remember, like, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, all that stuff. And then remember, at the end of the month, I'm going to have a surgery. Depending on how I feel, you know, I may pop in here and stuff during my recovery time at the house and stuff like that, right? So in the future, if you have any topics or any questions you want me to ask, go ahead and stick them in the comments. I'll gladly address them at some point in time. Okay. Later, guys. Be excellent to each other.